Elias thought he could fight them, thought he had a choice. But the truth was far worse than he ever imagined. The architects weren't simply taking over the world, they were already inside him. The bathroom mirror lied. He gripped the sink's edge, his knuckles bone white as he stared at the reflection. There was the same scar slicing his left eyebrow, a souvenir from that motorcycle crash at 19, and the same stubble he'd meant to shave yesterday. But his eyes, they smoldered with threads of gold, like fractures in a dam holding back a torrent of sunlight. Beneath his skin, veins writhed in an unnatural rhythm, not blue but an eerie obsidian black, as if his blood had been replaced with liquid shadow. "You've always known," whispered a voice that wasn't his. Just 3 days before, that voice had been a mere murmur beneath his pulse. Now it rang out clear as temple bells. "You're sweating." In the doorway, Evelyn leaned against the frame, arms crossed. Moonlight from a grimy window illuminated the scar on her neck, a jagged line from Jakarta she had never explained. Her leather jacket creaked as she shifted, her hand drifting toward the pistol holstered beneath her arm, a habit she'd grown all too frequent lately. "I don't feel hot," Elias lied. Yet, his bones hummed with a fever that had nothing to do with temperature. The chill of the bathroom clung to him, even as his shirt stuck to his spine, damp and reeking of copper. She stepped closer. "Your pupils." Before she could finish, agony exploded behind his eyes. In that moment, the world dissolved into static. When his vision cleared, Elias found himself standing in a cavernous void where gravity bent like wet paper. Golden filaments streaked the darkness like synaptic pathways, pulsing in time with a rhythm that vibrated in his very molars. Looming ahead were towering humanoid silhouettes, their skin like fractured obsidian and eyes burning like supernovae trapped in bone sockets. The tallest figure turned slowly, and suddenly Elias remembered. He was kneeling in a desert older than time, his hands, no, his talons, etching symbols into ancient stone tablets as a crowd chanted in clicks and fractured syllables. Over it all, the architect's voice had spoken, honeyed yet ashen, "You will sleep until the alignment. You are awakening." Those words resonated deep in his marrow. In a jarring moment of return, he slammed back into his body, gagging on bile. Evelyn's grip on his arm tightened as her twisted silver helix pendant dug into his bicep. "They're in my head," he rasped, barely able to form the words. "Deeper than that." Her palm pressed against his chest, and his heartbeat stuttered beneath her touch, skipping every third beat. "Your DNA's rewriting itself." The clinic results. "Elias, your sister's biopsy." Ice flooded his veins. "Mia." A photo, fluttering from her jacket, captured his 8-year-old sister grinning outside Rockefeller Center, her cheeks smeared with cocoa. The date, December 18th, scrawled on the back, marked the day before her bone marrow transplant. The very day he'd promised to quit smuggling black market antibiotics. "Promises are mortal indulgences," crooned the architect's voice. Without another word, Evelyn smashed a smoke grenade against the tiles. Purple fog billowed, enveloping them. "They'll triangulate us in 90 seconds. Move." Outside, the alley reeked of rotting fish and diesel. Elias's senses erupted as they fled. The acrid scent of a teenager smoking cloves near a dumpster, stage for lymphoma festering in her lymph nodes. The distant mutter of a bartender 3 blocks away, lamenting, "Last call for the apocalypse," while wiping lipstick from a whiskey glass. The silent dreams of a homeless veteran on the corner, whose fingers still clutched phantom dog tags as he envisioned a cobble marketplace exploding in slow motion. "Focus," Evelyn barked, dragging him into a subway stairwell slick with urine. His vision fractured, One moment he saw cracked concrete, the next, golden ley lines mapping the city's hidden energy grid. "They're not tracking us," he insisted, gripping his skull as his fingernails drew blood. "They're tracking me. Always were." Evelyn didn't deny it. She kicked open a maintenance door, revealing a labyrinth of tunnels choked with steaming mist. 97 missing this week. All O-negative blood. All reported glitching before they vanished. "Glitching," Elias echoed. "Skin etching itself with cuneiform. Fevers that melted thermometers." Her voice was a low growl as she descended into the gloom, her boots echoing off damp walls. "You're the first to last long enough to run." On an abandoned subway platform, bathed in flickering fluorescence, Elias slumped against a pillar plastered with missing person flyers. In the stagnant puddle at his feet, his reflection showed hollow cheeks and eyes now fully gold, the pupils narrow and slit like a serpent's. "What are they?" he ground out, desperation tinting every syllable. Evelyn paced with measured precision, the laser sight on her Glock painting red dots on rusted rails. "Remember the Al-Aziz dig? Those Sumerian tablets we sold to that Dubai collector?" He replied softly, "The god kings who walked as men," and the chill in his blood deepened. "Not allegory. History." She crouched and traced a symbol in the grime, a spiral within a triangle. "They designed us. Iterative models. The flood? Atlantis? It's all just system resets." The pillar beneath Elias's grip cracked, concrete powdering like chalk in his hands. "Why now?" "Your sister's blood work." Evelyn's gaze dropped to his hands where the black veins pulsed unnaturally. They needed a genetic anchor, someone born between worlds. Nausea rose in him as Mia's bright, trusting laugh echoed in his mind. "You'll be here when I wake up, right?" The walls themselves seemed to breathe. Then, golden light erupted. Slowly, it coalesced into the architect's true form. Obsidian flesh etched with glowing sigils, standing 10 feet tall and reeking of petrichor and decay. Its voice bypassed his ears, vibrating directly in his teeth. The child served her purpose. Now you serve yours. In a flash of action, Evelyn fired an iridescent round that tore through the architect's chest, spraying liquid shadow. In its dying throes, it laughed, a sound that mimicked Elias's very own stolen voice. "Run," he whispered, though the command came too late. His bones shifted. Pain became an unspoken language as his spine arched like a drawn bow. Vertebrae crackled and elongated. His fingernails splintered and transformed into obsidian talons that screeched against the concrete. Amid the roar of blood, singing hymns in a tongue older than cities, Evelyn's shouts were nearly drowned out. "You are the bridge," the architect intoned, its starfire eyes fixed on him. "The key to the great alignment." Elias's jaw unhinged. A scream tore free, warping into a harmonic frequency that shattered the platform's lights. Evelyn staggered, her nose bleeding, while the very walls rippled. Reality frayed as golden tendrils erupted from his back. No wings, but cosmic appendages probing the air like living roots. "Fight it!" Evelyn cried as she jammed a syringe into his thigh. Liquid fire flooded his veins. "You're still in there." And then, memories detonated. Mia's small hand in his, sticky with melted ice cream. Her bald scalp beneath his palm after the first round of chemo. The architect's chilling words the night she was born. "She is the lock. You are the key." With a primal roar, Elias lashed out. The syringe's serum clashed with his awakening DNA as he lunged forward, his obsidian talons slicing through the architect's throat. Black ichor sprayed in a burst that burned like acid. Although the entity dissipated, its mocking laughter lingered in the air. We are Legion. We are your marrow. Evelyn hauled him onto a maintenance ladder. The serum's temporary. We need the source. Source, he rasped. Her helix pendant glinted in the dim light. Where they first designed you. At that moment, the truth clicked into place. The ruins of Al-Aziz were not just remnants of the past. The symbols on those ancient tablets were not mere carvings. They were blueprints. In a derelict church, basement heavy with the smell of mildew and desperation, Elias sat on a rusted folding chair. His hands trembled as he stared at a map Evelyn had spread across a makeshift table of stacked crates. Blood-red circles marked locations across the city. Hydroelectric dams, abandoned research facilities, and the hidden Al-Aziz ruins buried beneath layers of concrete and steel. The serum's wearing off, Evelyn said, her voice tight. She tossed him another syringe. This is the last one. We need to move. Elias caught it, the cool glass a small comfort against his fevered palm. His veins still churned black beneath his skin, and in the cracked mirror he saw eyes that glowed faintly gold even in the dim light. What happens when this runs out? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she strapped a holster to her thigh and loaded it with iridescent rounds that shimmered like oil on water. The Al-Aziz site is our best shot. If we can destroy the core, we might disrupt the alignment. Might. It's the only plan we've got. Evelyn paused, her hand hovering over a faded photo taped to the wall. A younger Elias holding Mia on his shoulders, her laughter frozen in time. She's still alive, Elias. They need her to complete the cycle. The mere mention of Mia sent a jolt through him. He clenched his fists as the serum's fire battled the cold dread surging through his chest. What happens to her if we fail? Evelyn's silence spoke volumes. Outside, the streets lay eerily quiet, the kind of oppressive silence that pressed against your eardrums. Every sound became amplified, every sense sharp and invasive. He could hear the low hum of power lines 3 blocks away and smell the acrid tang of fear on a stray dog cowering in an alley. Stay close, Evelyn muttered, her Glock drawn as they navigated the labyrinth of backstreets. They'll be watching. They're always watching, Elias replied in a low voice, feeling their presence like static at the back of his mind. The architects weren't merely tracking him, they were feeding on him. At one point, a flash of gold caught his peripheral vision. A shadow crossed the street ahead. Evelyn spun around, pistol raised, but the figure vanished before she could fire. You saw it too, didn't you? She whispered, breath shallow. Elias only nodded. We're not alone. They reached the outskirts of the city, where the hydroelectric dam loomed like a monolith against the night sky. Beneath it, the Al-Aziz ruins lay hidden, buried decades ago, to conceal the truth. Evelyn led him to a rusted maintenance entrance. This is it, she said, her breath visible in the cold air. Once we're inside, there's no turning back. Elias nodded, his jaw set. The serum's effects were fading fast, and he could feel the inevitable change creeping back, the ache in his bones, the persistent gold light seeping through his pores. He followed her into the darkness, the weight of what lay ahead pressing down on him like a physical force. The tunnels beneath the dam were a maze of concrete and steel, the air thick with damp earth and rust. Evelyn moved with precise determination, her flashlight carving through the gloom, while Elias trailed behind, every sense straining against the oppressive silence. How far down does it go? He asked, his voice echoing off the walls. Far enough, she replied. The core is at the lowest level. That's where we'll find the source. They descended deeper, the temperature dropping with each step. The walls were lined with strange symbols, ancient cuneiform etched into stone, glowing faintly with the same golden light pulsing in Elias's veins. They've been here, he whispered. They've always been here, Evelyn corrected. This is where it all began. At last, they reached a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. In its center stood a structure unlike anything Elias had ever seen, a towering obelisk of obsidian and gold, its surface alive with shifting patterns of light. The air around it hummed with raw energy, and the ground vibrated with a deep, resonant frequency. The core, Evelyn said, awe and fear mingling in her tone. This is what they've been protecting. Drawn to it like a moth to a flame, Elias stepped closer. With every step, the voice in his head grew louder, a chorus of whispers urging him to remember. You are the bridge, the architect's voice echoed in his mind. The key to the great alignment. Elias, don't, Evelyn shouted, panic lacing her words, but it was too late. He reached out, his hand hovering inches from the obelisk's surface. The moment his skin made contact, the entire chamber exploded in blinding light. Pain, unadorned and absolute, seized him. His body convulsed violently as memories cascaded into his mind. Visions of ancient civilizations rising and falling, of the architects molding humanity like clay, and of Mia's face twisted in agony as her very DNA was rewritten. Elias, Evelyn's voice rang out, distant and drowned beneath the roar of blood pounding in his ears. He collapsed to his knees, the obelisk's light enveloping him. His bones shifted, his skin hardened into living obsidian, and the architect's whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, their presence overwhelming his senses. You cannot fight your nature, they intoned. You are ours. But then, amid the chaos, he saw her, Mia, her small hand reaching out as if to anchor him, her voice cutting through the tumult with a single, desperate promise. You promised. That word was a lifeline, a reminder of who he was, or perhaps who he had once been. With a roar that defied the collapsing reality around him, Elias tore himself away from the obelisk's allure. The searing light dimmed as he collapsed to the ground, gasping. Evelyn, he rasped, voice raw with pain and determination. Destroy it. Without hesitation, she pulled a small device from her pack and set it at the obelisk's base. A soft timer beeped, counting down from 60 seconds. We need to go, she said urgently as she hauled him to his feet. They ran as the chamber trembled. The device's countdown ended in a deafening explosion, a shockwave of light and heat that sent them sprawling. When the dust finally settled, the obelisk was no more than rubble. But the victory was short-lived. The ground trembled beneath them, cracks spreading like spiderwebs. The dam above groaned ominously, its structural integrity compromised. We need to get out of here, Evelyn urged, her voice laced with urgency. Elias nodded, but as they turned to flee, a figure emerged from the shadows, an architect, its obsidian flesh glistening in the dim light. You cannot escape, it intoned, its voice a chorus of whispered inevitabilities. You are the bridge. The cycle will continue. Elias stepped forward, his body still trembling from the transformation. Not while I'm still breathing. The architect lunged, but Elias was faster. His talons tore through its chest. Black ichor sprayed as the entity collapsed. Yet even as one fell, more figures materialized from the darkness. Go, Elias shouted, shoving Evelyn toward the exit. I'll hold him off. I'm not leaving you, she countered fiercely. You have to. Their eyes locked, his burning with golden fire, hers filled with unshed tears. For Mia. For a fleeting moment, she hesitated. Then, with a determined nod, she turned and ran. Left alone in the crumbling chamber, Elias could feel the relentless change taking hold. His humanity was slipping away as the architects closed in. But as the first of them reached him, he offered a defiant smile. "You made one mistake," he said steadily. "You underestimated me." With a final, earth-shattering roar, he unleashed the full force of his newfound power. The chamber collapsed around him as the dam above gave way, unleashing a torrential wall of water. Outside, Evelyn emerged into the night air just as the dam burst, the floodwaters swallowing the ruins in their unstoppable rush. She stumbled to higher ground, heart pounding as she watched the transformation of the landscape. "Elias," she whispered into the night, a prayer, a plea of farewell. But there was no answer. Weeks later, on a quiet hill overlooking the reshaped city, Evelyn surveyed the aftermath. The floodwaters had receded, leaving behind a scarred, forever changed landscape. The architects had vanished, their presence erased along with the ruins. Yet the loss still ached. As she turned to leave, something caught her eye, a solitary figure standing in the distance, his silhouette barely discernible against the horizon. For a heartbeat, she believed it was him. But as the figure slowly turned, a faint glint of gold shone in his eyes. And in that moment, Evelyn knew. The cycle had begun again.